Welcome to Fueling Your Legacy, hosted by Samuel Knickerbocker. Each week, we expose the faulty foundational mindsets of the past and rebuild a new, stronger foundation essential in creating your legacy. We've got a lot of work to do, so let's get started. Welcome back to Fuel Your Legacy and for Book Review Wednesday. Again, just want to give a quick shout out to Life Insurance Awareness Month. This month has been just fantastic. Been doing lots of work for multiple clients, helping them just get a review. Sometimes it works out where we can help them. Sometimes they end up staying with what they have. But regardless of how it ends up, it's still important to remember and say, okay, how am I protecting my family? What am I doing to make sure that my family is taken care of financially, both while I'm alive and while when I pass on, because that's all going to happen. There's lots of different philosophies regarding life insurance, from Dave Ramsey to the guy who wrote Killing Sacred Cows. I forgot his name. But yeah, so there's different philosophies. No matter what it is or how you want to approach the conversation, I have the ability to take care of multiple clients. I represent multiple, like over 100 different life insurance companies. So whatever it is that your need is, if you just are going for the cheapest, if you're going for the best value, are you going for something that's going to be a little bit longer, shorter, and whatever it is that you're looking for in the life insurance realm, I'd love to be able to sit down and run some numbers and just see if there's any way that I could help you and get you at least a quote. I know many people who are 30, 35, 40 years old. They started out with 20 to 30 year term policies, and which means that those policies are going to come due about 50, 55. That's not an optimal time to get life insurance. In fact, actuarial statistics would suggest that during your 30s to 40s, you actually have a less chance of dying. And because of that, it's actually cheaper to get life insurance in your 30s to 40 years than in your 20s or 50s. And so if you are in that window, 30, 40 years, it might just be beneficial to get a new policy that stretches another 30 years or however long you want it for, that's going to kind of bridge that gap into retirement, because it might be cheaper or at least the same cost as what you're already paying, but for an extra 10 years of insurance and potentially more insurance. So making sure that you are covered effectively and that you're upgrading your insurance every time you have new children, buy new houses. If you have any more debt or pay off your debt, that we're getting an adequate review there. Just a simple method if you're wondering, hey, is it worth calling? I think generally the most commonly used method of assessing for life insurance is the DIME method. The DIME method is debt, all of your debt, your income times at least 10 years of your annual income, then the total value of your mortgage, and then final expenses and education costs for your children, if that's something that you want to do. Not everybody wants to pay for their children's education through life insurance, so that's fine if that's not you, but that's the DIME method. Once you tally that up and get that number, say, okay, do I have that life insurance or not? One point where a lot of people think, oh, well, I have life insurance through my employer. That just the simple fact of the matter is, not even life insurance companies can consider employment life insurance. So that happens often where the husband has it through the work, the wife doesn't. So I go and try and get a policy on the wife, and they say, no, there's no insurance on the husband, because they don't recognize work insurance, because you could be terminated, fired, move jobs, promoted to a different company at any time. And then at that point you would lose that coverage. So, and then ideally the new company has coverage, but there's a transition period. So because of all those circumstances, or if you're self-employed, whatever the case may be, there is a need to have some personal coverage on there, and that's what I can help you with. If you do those numbers and you find out you're either underinsured, maybe you're overinsured, so you need to back off and get some cheaper cheaper insurance. Let's do whatever is best for you. But let's make sure you're covered and your family's covered, and that you have a game plan moving forward that's in alignment with the goals and objectives of life insurance. So you can actually use it while you're alive, not just when you die. So with that being said, we're going to jump into the book review this week. Super excited. This whole week, we're really talking about how we can believe a little bit more in ourselves, how we can have the confidence to achieve more things, and how we can let our past, rather than define us in a negative way, how can we use it as fuel to go and do something better? So this week we had Laura Loch. We're going to have her on Friday, which is, she's phenomenal. I love that I got to meet her. I met her through Instagram, talked to her, and we were able to get something scheduled and have her on. Her story's incredible. So let's move into the book, though. The book is The Power by Rhonda Byrne. Now, Rhonda Byrne, you may, if you're in this personal development world, you may recognize her as also the author or the coordinator of the book and movie The Secret. Okay, so if you've ever watched the movie Secret, Rhonda Byrne is one that's kind of walking at the very beginning with the suitcase, telling her story. Hey, basically, she was at the destitute of life. She wasn't sure what was going on. She went to read some book and talk to some other people about their experience, and she discovered this book that really led her to understanding herself and the world and what the world operates on. So this is kind of an interesting time to do this recording, because over the last few weeks I've been talking with my brother, and he has been listening. I don't forget the guy's name, but believes that everything operates from one there's one natural law, and everything that's created is based on that one natural law, or that one natural building block. Okay, well, Rhonda Byrne really also believes this very similar. She labels that one thing as the energy of love. And that's how she labels it. This book goes into a lot of detail, goes into the experiences, goes into understanding how to really use that law for your benefit, and really gets into the nitty-gritty of, even when you think you're loving by doing X, Y, or Z, it's really potentially not loving. It's motivated with a negative energy or the energy of fear, and so it's not going to really accomplish what you want it to accomplish. You think it's going to accomplish it, but it's not. For instance, oh man, I don't like getting bills in the mail, or every time I go to the grocery store, I'm parking in the back of the lot rather than up in the front. And there's a lot of these things where we try and like be positive about them, but in reality, they're not super positive. Well, she talks about how everything needs to be focused purely on what we love. Now, last week we talked about the happiness advantage, and Sean Aker was talking about how we need to focus on all the best possibilities, the best examples, the best things to accomplish. This week we're talking about how to do that, maybe with what energy to do that in, but also it's a very similar concept, right? If we're focusing on the best possible outcomes, the best possible situations, the best possible relationships, the best possible health, the best possible transportation, we're focusing on all the best possible things. That's the love aspect. And then rather than just focusing on it, but really experiencing what it feels like to love those things. I ask myself a series of questions that I got from Ed Milet. You may have heard of Ed Milet. He has a podcast called The Ed Milet Show. Fantastic. If you haven't ever listened to it, I suggest going and listening to it. But these are some of the questions that I ask myself every evening before I go to bed. And they kind of lead or lend a lot of credibility to this, as far as focusing not just on the what it is, because that's kind of important, focusing on the what, but focusing on the feeling of what that means to us, right? So here are the 7 questions that I ask myself every evening before I go to bed. Okay, so the first is, what am I most happy about in my life right now? This is still a very factual thing. So what am I most happy about? What am I most excited about that? What has me fired up, right? So again, what experiences, what relationships, what paydays, what work, whatever it is, what is it that has you so fired up that you're excited about? And then here's a great one. What am I most proud of today? What did I do that I'm proud of today? Again, focusing my mind on all the best things that have happened that day. Question 4, what am I grateful for today? And how does that make me feel to be grateful, right? Notice that, not just how does it make me feel, but how does it make me feel to be grateful, right? Because grateful is a choice. And so how do I feel about myself, recognizing that I'm choosing to be grateful? Do you see the little distinction there between how does it feel being grateful and how does it feel to be grateful? I mean, there are two very different questions when you're analyzing it, and answering it, sometimes it's a little difficult, right? Man, I don't really know how, I don't feel grateful, but and whatever it is, every day is different. But that's why I ask myself, I want to focus my mind. I want to train my mind to focus on, hey, what am I grateful for today? And how does that make me feel to be grateful? Okay. So for me, it makes me feel at peace, elated, cared about, loved, joyful, right? Those are some of the things that I experience when I'm explaining to somebody how it feels to be grateful. Okay, so then question 5, what do I enjoy most in my life right now? So that's first half of the question. And then what am I doing, being, or seeing that I enjoy most about it? Right, so we're getting into the nitty-gritties, really identifying and forcing ourselves to, 1, visualize what's going on, but 2, really experience the feeling. And then question 6, what am I committed to in my life right now? And wait for it, how does that make me feel? How does it make me feel to be committed to my wife? How does it make me feel to be committed to my children? How does it make me feel to be committed to my job? How does it make me feel to be committed to my own happiness? How does it make me feel to be committed to my faith, to my God, to my health, right? All of these things, what am I committed to, and how does it make me feel to be committed? Now, this is the kicker of the question. This why I'm bringing this up is this question 7, because it lends perfectly into the Power by Rhonda Byrne, the book. The first one is, who do I love? So just like think about, who do I love? And don't just think about it, but experience the love for them. Allow yourself to feel love for that individual as you're saying that. Who loves me? Allow yourself to feel loved. I mean, there's a lot of children and individuals who they didn't feel loved growing up. I was one of them. And so this concept of really training yourself to feel love and recognize that love is really important. So who loves me? Okay. So and this is all kind of the same point. So who do I love? Who loves me? What about that makes me loving? Right? Why am I choosing to be loving? About a month ago, I posted on Facebook the question, why do you love? Right? Not who do you love, but why do you choose to love? And this question is very much along that lines. What about who you love and who loves you? What about that makes you loving? Okay. And then next question is, how does it make me feel, again, to be loved, right? So it's all about the feeling, and Rhonda Byrne does her very best to really put this in perspective. It's not about the factual, like, yes, I love you, no, I don't love you, whatever. It's about the feeling. What type of experience are you willing to give yourself? And the better, the more complete experience of whatever feeling you're having, the more likely it is to come to pass faster, quicker, and more potent in your life. Think and Grow Rich, Napoleon Hill talks about this as well. He doesn't call it, he kind of does call it the secret, actually. He says, oh, there's a secret hidden in this book, and you got to be really paying attention to it throughout the book. He never calls it out specifically, and yet he always calls it out specifically, so kind of manage that one. But in the book of Think and Grow Rich, he calls it desire, right? How often have you heard the word love and desire used at least connected to each other, right? I desire my wife, or I desire success. I desire these things. And then also saying, I love my wife. I love success. I love my children, right? So desire is really a really great adjective to express kind of the intensity of the love, for lack of a better word, right? And so the reason that I think it's an adjective, it's almost like an adjective verb, because you're describing the emotion in which you're loving, right? You're describing the intensity in which you're loving. That's why I love the word desire. But that's really what it comes down to is, are you focusing on what you want so deeply are you visualizing it, right? And from the religious sector, we talk about visions, and it's like this weird thing that we haven't had visions, and people aren't having visions anymore, supposedly, right? I have a vision every day. I visualize what I want to happen in the future, and that's my daily vision of what's going to happen today, right? And I do it every night. I visualize my next day, and I think about, okay, what's going to happen tomorrow, and how can I make this go as well as I want to? And I intentionally induce myself into a vision of creating my future. And you need to take the visualization aspect, pair it with an intense desire or an intense love for the desired outcome, right? What it is you're chasing after. And that combination is really what just launches you into the ability to have faith, into the ability to have certainty, hope, guidance, goals. I mean, all of those things are really predicated on your ability to love and do what you're doing. If you're doing something, but you're hating doing it, your success rate is not going to be the same. Now, I do stuff that I know is good for me. I know I'm supposed to do it, but I'm not completely sold out to it yet. I'm not completely in love with it. And that's an issue for me. I was just getting mentored 2 or 3 weeks ago by somebody who's worth hundreds of millions. If you evaluate his business, probably closer to the billion side of things. And as I was sitting there being mentored by him, I was thinking, man, he is emotionally invested. He loves this. I'm kind of half-heartedly doing it, right? So there's a difference between half-heartedly doing something and like, this is my baby. This is my wife. This is everything to me, and I love this, right? Being that animated, that emotionally involved, being willing to be that vulnerable and take the risk that maybe you love something and it doesn't work out. That's a risk you have to be willing to take, especially when you want to maximize the emotional energy and desire of love to accomplish a certain objective. And this whole book really goes into all of those little nitty gritty things. And I don't have time, nor do I think it's my purpose of doing this podcast to outline every one of those. That's kind of the purpose of going and reading the book. What I can say is that as you read the book, it causes you to stop and think about every situation in your life. There's multiple examples, and for you to identify, okay, am I really putting forth the love into this, right? Do you know what you want your future to look like, and have you decided to love being in that future? And why I say that, love being in that future, is that's where the visualization comes from. We've got to learn to experience the future we want before we ever get it physically. And that's what this book helped me a lot with, is understanding the kind of the difference or the coupling of desire and love together along with visualization. So that's what I want to share with you. Those 3 parts that build are kind of the foundation of a solid creation or ability to create in your life. And that's another thing, man. You were born to create. This isn't some like hypothetical thing. You were born to create. I know you can create. I'm excited to see what you create. I'm excited for you to message me on Instagram or Facebook or through text message, whatever it is, and say, hey, Sam, I created X, Y, and Z in my life. A few months back on our podcast, we had Kelly Walker, the self-proclaimed queen of manifesting, right? And it's that same type of thing. What do you love creating? If you could create anything in the world, what would you love to create? And I'm confident that you can do that. I know your ability. I know your potential, because there's no, like, I don't have any more potential than you or your neighbor or your friend or your handicapped brother or whatever, right? Like, everybody has the same potential, the same ability. We've all been blessed with the same gifts in this regard, right? We all have different gifts, obviously, but in this regard, we all have the ability to accomplish great things and to accomplish our dreams and to create our existence. So my advice to you would be, think about What role is desire, love, and visualize going to play in your creation? And then begin creating. And I'd love to hear from you on what you created, how you brought it to pass in your life, and what that's going to look like for you moving forward, and what's your future going to look like. Maybe you haven't accomplished it yet, but you have got to a point where you're so certain that you will accomplish it that it's basically done. It's just a waiting game or a time period between now and when it becomes reality. So with that being said, super, super excited again. I love this week. I'm so glad we could have Laura Loch on to share her insight and how she created her future and the things that she did to visualize and to have love for those around her and to desire after something and just make it work against all odds. Phenomenal story. Super excited for it. So with that being said, we're going to talk about life insurance just one last quick minute. Life insurance is this whole month, Life Insurance Awareness Month. If you'd like a free consultation, review, and whatever that looks like for you, please reach out to me at 385-263-7699. I can run some quotes for you. We can do it all through email, through phone. Doesn't matter where you are in the United States. Let's see if we can help you out and make sure that you and your family are going to be protected against any impending doom, we'll say. So super excited about that, and we'll catch you next time on Fuel Your Legacy. Thanks for joining us today. If what you heard resonated with you, please like, comment, and share on social media. Tag me so I can give you a shout out on the next episode. And thanks to all those who have left a review. It helps spread the message of what it really takes to build a legacy that lasts. Catch you next time on Fueling Your Legacy.